In 1979, Stanley Williams, or better known as Tucker Williams, was convicted of 4 murders. The first one took place at a 7-Eleven where he shot and killed the cashier that was working at the time. The second one took place at a hotel where he shot and killed the owner of the hotel, followed by his wife and daughter. After 26 years later, this man was executed, but not before much money and time was put into place. After trial after trial, and worst of all, the family's victims had to relive every moment of losing their loved ones over and over for 26 years. All for the hopes that some type of closure, a closure that capital punishment proclaims to do by punishing the criminal with the worst punishment available, and deterring others from doing the same punishment over. After research, I have found out that capital punishment fails to deter crime, it fails to bring closure to the victim's family, and instead, it is an enormously expensive, worthless program, and therefore capital punishment should be abolished. And life without parole should be life without the possibility of parole should be the main punishment. It would punish the criminal immediately and not 26 years later, saving the victim's family from having to relive their loved one's death. It would save us money that could potentially be used to improve our system and actually reduce crime activity. Capital punishment comes at a really high cost, considering all the lawyers that have to be provided for the defendant, the technology and experts needed to assure the evidence links the criminal 100% accurately to the crime. Arthur L. Corn, a senior U.S. court judge, a former deputy for LA County, and a former chairman of the Adult Authority conducted an in-depth research with his partner Paul M. Mitchell, professor of law. They concluded that capital punishment is a multi-billion-dollar fraud on California taxpayers. Since California restated death penalty in 1878, California taxpayers have spent roughly $4 billion to just execute 13 people, while more than 700 wait on death row. Most of these inmates will most likely die of natural causes than be executed. But for those that do get executed, Mr. Alcon and his partner concluded that $1.94 billion are being spent for the whole trial when the whole trial is done. Out of these $1.94 billion, $925 million are spent in automatic appeals. $1.58 million are spent in each case for this defensive system. And cost of incarceration is $7 million a year. If execution is never taken into place, then this was a very highly cost life without possibility of parole sentence. And even if the criminal is executed and $1.94 billion are invested in this trial, there's still going to be murders being committed. It doesn't stop someone from killing a person, but yet many support death penalty because they are misled to believe it will deter crime, when in fact there is no evidence that suggests this theory. Michael L. Rodell and Tracy L. Lecoq conducted a survey in 2008 where the top American criminologists were asked questions regarding capital punishment. 87% of these experts answered that if capital punishment would be abolished, it would have no effect in the murder rate, while 83.6% believe that capital punishment does not deter crime. These experts who specialize in a specific area are telling us that these methods don't work. That in fact, most criminals don't even think that they will get caught. It's like, for example, us, when we were growing up, we all did some type of wrongdoing, and while we were doing it, we didn't think that we were going to get caught. But we were going to get caught. While some of us, the thought of just getting caught or knowing that it was wrong enabled us to proceed with the actions, or in some cases, was the main reason why we got caught. The same concept can be applied to criminals. They believe they can plan the perfect murder scene and not get caught. And they believe they can, for this reason, capital punishment is not going to make criminals think twice. Maybe I shouldn't kill this person because if I do, I'll be sentenced to death row. Many criminals are not going to be thinking that while they're murdering somebody. Therefore, capital punishment would be no bigger effect than having someone incarcerated. If capital punishment should be abolished, it would save us money. We could then use this money to improve our criminal systems by enhancing our forensics labs and DNA testings. Some of the money would be spent in after-school programs and concentrating mainly in bad neighborhoods, where young kids find nothing else to do but trouble. Keeping these young kids from becoming wars and eventually committing crimes would definitely reduce crime. Or we can hire more police officers like New York has. Professor Franklin Zimring of University of California, Berkeley School of Law conducted an in-depth analysis that showed New York crime had dropped 80% in the last 20 years. He stated that New York hired 7,000 new officers in 1990, and they also created more police stations. Many of these officers were assigned to watch neighborhoods they considered as hotspots. This resulted in a drop of crime because not only did people feel safer when there were police around patrolling these hotspots, but it also deterred individuals from committing crimes. New York abolished capital punishment in 2004. The only way death row would ever have any significant impact in deterring crime would be if execution was taken rapidly and with no hesitation. Then and only then would death row be indeed the worst punishment available for the worst crimes committed, because not much money would be wasted and the criminals would be taken off society for good. But most likely this will never occur, because there will always be people supporting these criminals and claiming their innocence, claiming that we are about to kill an innocent person, how the evidence was tampered, how the evidence is wrong, because he or she is a certain race or a certain age or a certain gender. There will always be an excuse for people to be protesting, which will lead to many individuals doubting and disrespecting our systems that is here to protect us. We see it all the time. Every time someone is about to get executed, media drags attention to it, and all of a sudden society has changed apart. They feel bad for the person, stating that they have changed. They have written books, are now religious, and wouldn't even kill a fly. We forget that 20 years ago, we hoped that this person would be sentenced to death penalty, that no one that committed such gruesome and cruelest crime should be allowed to live a second more. We forget about the victim's family. We should put ourselves in Mr. Owen's family's shoes, the young man that was killed at a 7-Eleven by Mr. Williams. How do you think they felt after losing their loved one, having to relive the death for 26 years, and when the time came to finally punish this man for his actions, mobs of protesters and artists urging for clemency from the government, pleading for the man not to be executed, and many sitting at home watching the news and feeling pity for these men. And most recently, Troy Davis was executed on September 21st, 2011 by the state of Georgia for killing an off-duty cop. But before he convinced hundreds of thousands of people he was innocent. This, of course, as well caused a protest very similar to Mr. Williams. This is what capital punishment does to us. We end up feeling sorry for these people. We felt sorry and wanted Mr. Williams to live, because we heard he might be innocent. He was a changed man, because he wrote books and was said to be an anti-gang. But we forget that he murdered 4 innocent victims, then bragged about it. He threatened jurors after they made their decision. We remember him as the poor man that was killed by California, and not once do we remember Mr. Owens and the 3 other people that were killed by this man. Thank you.